Good afternoon and welcome to today's presentation in our Collegiate Recovery webinar series. My name is Olivia Pinelli and I'll be your host today. We're joined by Vince Sanchez, the Associate Director of the Center of Collegiate Recovery Communities of Texas Tech University. And the topic of today's presentation is a Collegiate Recovery Spotlight on Texas Tech. These webinars are hosted by the Association of Recovery in Higher Education in order to support the growth and development of the collegiate recovery field. Just a few reminders and logistics before we turn things over to Vince. Today's webinar will be recorded and we will upload it to YouTube and the ARHE website. You'll be able to go back and access all the information. If you have any questions for the presenter, and this particular presentation is going to be a little bit more Q&A, so please do ask questions throughout, and if you put them in the Q&A box, we'll get to them as quickly as we can. If there are any supplemental materials, we can get those out to you afterwards. If you're having any technical difficulties or logistical questions, feel free to message us, and you can do that in the chat box with a message to all panelists. We are always looking for ways to improve, topics to cover, and any feedback from our attendees. So reach out at any time and let us know about your experience. Now, before I turn things over to Vince, I want to read his bio. So Vince Sanchez is the Associate Director, as we mentioned, for the Collegiate Recovery Communities at Texas Tech. Starting as an undergraduate assistant in 1994, Vince is the longest tenured employee of the CRC. Vince received his undergraduate degree in Human Development and Family Services and Family Studies from Texas Tech, and later earned his Master's in Clinical Mental Health Counseling in 2008. He is a licensed professional counselor. Vince provides academic advising, recovery support, and directly oversees the Collegiate Recovery Program. He is beloved by his students and parents who seek after his wisdom and guidance. What a great bio. Yeah. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. So tell us a little bit about the program. Tell us about how it became and a little bit of the history.
The history is interesting. I've been with Texas Tech since '94 for this is my 25th year working in collegiate recovery. And I was with the original founder and director of the CRC when I first started. And the program evolved out of a funny situation because we're part of an academic unit. We're not in student services or student health, but what we're with is an academic unit called Community, Family, and Addiction Sciences. And initially, our program grew from an interdisciplinary minor that we offered for all majors at Texas Tech. And back then, it was called Substance Abuse Studies. And it met the criteria for the state of Texas for licensure as a chemical dependency counselor. And so what we found out when we started offering those courses back in 1986 is that every single student that we encountered was a student in long-term recovery. And they really bonded and were going to school to because of their experience in treatment or in the rooms or whatever you want to say their experience was, they wanted to help people and they wanted to become counselors. And so our founder, Dr. Carl Anderson, his wife said, you need to give these people a safe space on campus. And that's what he set out to do. And with the help of some really committed board members on our advising committee, they were able to secure us a couple spaces, a space for an office, and then a space for on-campus meetings here at Texas Tech, which we have always called the Serenity Center. And so that's kind of our foundation and where we grew from. And then we began to fundraise for scholarships to offer for people who have long-term recovery. What we want for our program is for our students to have or hit the 1 year mark, the semester they start with us, so that they've had a good foundation in early recovery and are looking to expand and to grow and work on their academics.
That's amazing. So people actually start at the beginning of their recovery at Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm. They do.
Wow.
We actually have recovery housing for students who have at least 3 months of continuous recovery.
Yeah.
So they're allowed to move into our dorms and participate with us. We just can't offer them scholarship until they have they get close to that 1 year mark.
And you mentioned earlier when before we started that the scholarships, tell us a bit more about the scholarships for students.
Okay, so right now we have 120 students at the Texas Tech Collegiate Recovery Community. All of our students that are active in our program this semester are on scholarship. And we award roughly $250,000 a year in scholarships just for people in long-term recovery. Their academics, that doesn't, their previous academics, let's say that, doesn't really impact whether they're eligible for scholarship or not. Their maintained GPA is required. So we do require that our students, once they become a part of our program, maintain a minimum of a 3.0 GPA, which we really don't have a problem with that because our students, once they get going, are phenomenal academically, and they do very, very, very well. Our average GPA runs around a 3.46 for our student body. So most of our students are on scholarship, and we're able to award them simply just for being in long-term recovery.
Oh, that's amazing. How competitive is it to get onto the program?
It's a little competitive. I mean, I think that's a lot of the reason why Dr. Kitty Harris worked to create a replication model with Mandy Baker on having other universities be able to establish this, because we can't support every student that applies to our program. I'll just break it down for you because I am the chair of our scholarship committee of how that looks. So when we do scholarship evaluation twice a year, but our main goal first is to provide funding and support to the students that are continuing with us. So we'll award our returning students first, and then whatever is left in our pot of money for that year will dictate how many new students we're able to award and bring into our program. And we want our returning students, after they've been with us for a year or 2 years, who have done well academically, who have been active in the service side of things, to be able to get more money. You know, we want to award them larger awards. And so those students that are the most active, that are sitting on committees, that are reaching out to the community and who are doing well academically, will typically get $4,000 a year from us, $2,000 each semester. And so we want to make those awards first, and then, you know, our new incoming students will get a minimum award of $1,000 for their first year.
That's incredible. What other supports do you provide to students? So you have a whole building, you provide scholarship support. What else can a student expect?
Well,
or access?
Let's start on the scholarship side, because the scholarship actually has two functions for us. With our scholarship, we can work with the Office of Admissions and help get a student into school that normally wouldn't be admitted. So what that looks like is students who have had some wreckage of the past from their active addiction, their active disease, and maybe don't have the GPA to transfer in to a four-year university. You know, we're able to reach out to our admissions office and say, look, this is one of our applicants. We have decided to award them a scholarship. And then the Office of Admissions will give them an opportunity to become enrolled, and maybe even on a probationary status, but they get enrolled regardless of what their GPA looks like. You know, as long as they don't have student conduct issues coming in from another university, we're usually able to get them admitted without a problem, just because we're giving them a scholarship. The other piece of that is that our scholarship also waives our out-of-state tuition costs. So every student that applies and becomes part of our CRC gets in-state tuition. And in Texas, we're pretty competitive as far as the rate for tuition and fees.
That's amazing. And what other supports can a student?
They get academic advising, and we kind of do an approach that's very similar to what you see in athletics. So we have an in-house person. It's myself and Anna Trevino that work really closely with our students on their academics. But we operate as a secondary support. So we want them to develop a relationship with their department, with their advisor. That program and that advisor is going to basically clear them for graduation. We don't have the power to do that. But what we do is we review what information they get from their academic advisor, and then we make suggestions. And the other piece is that we take that into account, is that we want to put as many of our students in classes together as we possibly can, because we know that that peer-to-peer support in the classroom is it's huge, and it makes a huge impact on them transitioning, and especially if they're a new student, because once they start school, they have to kind of learn to learn again. How do I retain information? I'm not popping Adderall 24/7 anymore. So how do I, get all of this done? And so, there's a learning curve for new students, and we like to put them in classes with other students that have already been successful.
And what about the kind of recovery services that are available? What resources do you have, like meetings and?
We have meetings here on campus. And we have a large meeting room that we call the Serenity Center. And we have meetings on campus every day of the week. We also offer to any of the students at the beginning of every semester, if you want to start a meeting, just find a time and let us know, and we'll give you the space. Now, we've been very good about being a stepping stone for groups getting started. Years ago, probably 15 years ago, we had CA started here in our building. And eventually the membership grew so much and that they were able to move off campus and pay rent and do everything officially as an established group here in Lubbock, Texas. So we always offer meeting space to our students. As far as counseling services, everybody that works here is a licensed therapist or counselor. So we have MFTs. I'm an LPC, and we're all licensed in some way, shape, or form as far as clinically goes, but we don't provide any kind of counseling here in our offices. What we want to do is be able to be the student's advocate and support them, but we don't want to have a clinical relationship with them, so to speak. Well, what we will do is, if there's a crisis, if there's a situation, if we're concerned, we'll bring the student in and visit with them and assess the situation, and then make appropriate referrals to services either on campus or off campus for them. We've got a great marriage and family therapy clinic that offers discounted sliding scale rates for students. They're well-versed in addiction and substance use disorder. Mm-hmm. And so they are a good resource for us, and that way we can move the clinical piece outside of our office and just keep our focus as being the student's advocate.
That's fantastic. What kind of recovery meetings are available? Are they 12-step, or do you offer a range of SMART, refuge, other types of recovery?
Well, there's a full range. So we don't have any kind of expectation for what type of recovery our students have. We just want them to be working a program and have a plan, like who holds them accountable, who do they reach out to when they struggle, what kind of support groups or types of groups do they attend in order to maintain their recovery. Mm-hmm. So, we have all sorts of meetings here on campus. The primary ones, of course, are going to be Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous. But we have eating disorder, EDA, we have eating disorder recovery, we have trauma-related support groups. We have Families Anonymous. So mm-hmm. There's a huge support here available on campus. And right now they're working on trying to get a smart recovery group set up here. That's been an interest of our current group of students that we have. And so they're looking to get that established. Hopefully it'll start to the meetings will start next week, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Speaking of crisis, how do you support students who may return to use?
Okay, so this is interesting because, one of the best things I've ever heard was when I was visiting with students at Augsburg. And I went out there to talk to them about 10 years ago and talk about recovery housing, what that looked like, because they have such a phenomenal established student residence for students in recovery at Augsburg, that we went out there and we were talking to the students, and one of the students said to me, and I asked the same question, and the student said to me, we don't shoot our wounded. We reach out to them, we surround them, we rally, and we support them. And so, and that's what we've been doing, but I like the frame of that he put that in for me, because, if we have a student that slips and we have a student that really struggles, it depends on their intention. If that student is really like, look, I messed up and I need the help. And so we'll assess the situation, and depends on the length of the relapse, of course, because, you may want to refer to some sort of treatment services if necessary, but, 9 times out of 10, we know about the relapse here in our office like the next day, because the students come in and say, I saw a Snapchat, the student texts me, we're really concerned. And so then the staff kind of mobilize and reach out to the student and get them in here and kind of ask them where they are. We want them to stick around. And so if it was a slip and they've had a one-time use event, then we're gonna work with them and find out what they feel like they need. And then we're going to make our suggestions as far as what we think they should do for the next 90 days. And usually we'll look at it in a 90-day period of time where they'll start seeking out therapy, meet with a staff member once a week, make sure that they have an active relationship with a sponsor or someone who holds them accountable, and then of course meeting attendance. So, one of the other things I do is say, I want to see you in our building every day. I want to see you walk through these doors and see the staff and see other students, because that type of accountability helps them, make better choices when they're not surrounded by people in recovery.
And how often does that happen? Is it a regular occurrence? Or?
I mean, relapse is part of
the condition, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of what we deal with. The relapse is always going to be part of this. And it varies. Like sometimes, unfortunately, you'll see it happen in a wave where like 2 or 3 students go out together. Sometimes with our non-traditional students, the students that are a little bit older, it might be, a very solitude type of thing where they're held up in their house and they don't leave for a week kind of thing. But we'll see maybe 2 or 3 a semester at most. I'll feel like it's really a big deal if we have 3 or 4,
Yeah.
But relapse is always going to be a part of this, and it's what the student wants to do with that and how devastating the relapse is. So, what we don't want to see is we don't want to lose people. Yeah. We want to be able to intervene and know that they have a safe place to come. But, a lot of that's out of our hands. So we just do the best we can when they make themselves available and ask for help.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So we've had a question. I'm the president of a CRC at my school, and I'm looking for some suggestions on how you guys run your club.
Okay. I mean, the way that we've run things has evolved over years. When I first started working for our CRC back in '94, we had probably 25 students. So it wasn't very large. We had a very small office space, and there was a director, an assistant director, and then a student assistant. And I was the student assistant. And so literally, we just provide a safe space on campus, which I think is the most important. And we provided them a space to have on-campus meetings for accessibility purposes. And we just provide a positive, regard for the students and a genuine willingness to help them, and when I think that's one of the biggest things with me and my staff is that our students see us and they see that we want to see them succeed. And they see that we believe in their ability, and we tell them, these students that came before you have done phenomenal things and you have that capability. And just the people that are trying to go back to school that are in recovery just need someone to believe in them, and the structure is just really, we're here to support. Like my director here, Dr. Tom Kimball, will go and set up a meeting. If a student is here by himself and trying to set up a meeting, he'll go in there. So it really is really flat. Anybody here will do anything to help another person. And I think that's what it boils down to.
That's wonderful. How has the pandemic affected the CRC?
It's been a big change for me, because I'm so used to sitting in my office every day with my door open and having a steady stream of students coming in and out all day long. So what it's done, it's made my job reaching out to students a little bit more purposeful. I really have to reach out to them and schedule appointments and say, hey, I want to see you, come to the office, let's visit for just 15-minute check-in or whatever. So I've had to be more active, where before I was really just spoiled. I would open my door and I would have students just come in and I would ask them about their day and what's going on and deal with issues in the moment, you know? And so that's the part that I miss, is that there's not so many students around that they can just walk in and I can say, hey, something's wrong. I can tell that you're not doing well today. What's going on? You know, so I miss that.
Because people have their faces covered, right?
Oh yeah, they have their faces covered. And really where we are right now is the number of students that access our building is very low compared to what it was. You know, we were used to, in between classes, this lobby would have like 30 students eating and drinking coffee and studying, and it would sound like we were at a coffee house every day in between every single class. And so it just doesn't feel like that right now, which is difficult, you know. Part of what we built this program on is community, and it's very difficult to have community when you have to be socially distant, when you have to be, you know, virtual. And so it's been a struggle, but we're doing it. And I feel like that our students are trying to acclimate for that. Like right now I'm doing academic advising for the spring term, and we're talking about classes, and every single student is like, please tell me they're in person. Does it have a classroom? Does it have a date and time? You know what I mean? And it's like, well, it does now, but that may change. We don't know.
So you're in person right now?
We are. We're in the office every day. Some of our classes are hybrid, where it's there's a portion of the class that meets in person and then the rest are online. So, you know,
and is that going to be the case in the winter semester?
Well, we have one term, fall term, that's we go August to December, and then our spring term is January to May.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to have any winter term courses during the break.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any offered. So, I mean, they're cutting back on the course offerings as we speak. When I'm looking at advising, what was there yesterday is not there today, or it's changed from a face-to-face to virtual already. So, you know, we'll see.
How has that impacted students' abilities to cope? You kind of touched briefly on, you know, seeing that some people are not okay, but you know, as a condition that kind of manifests in isolation.
It's been something that we've had to stay on top of, because I mean, even for us as a staff, we're so used to constantly being social that it's impacted our mental health. You know? And so it's like it's like 10 times worse for the students that are trying to go to school and work and deal with the pandemic and relationships and meetings. And, you know, even the meetings were virtual for so many months, and that was so difficult for so many students. But we've seen a lot of students that have just struggled with their anxiety and their depression, and we have to address it. I mean, I think I've had like 40 to 50 conversations since the summer started, just about maybe you should go and let's visit with your psychiatrist about adjusting your meds, or, you know, maybe we need to look at trying to see a therapist again. You know, we're students who normally wouldn't be in therapy anymore. They're like juniors and seniors, and they're getting ready to transition out and go to grad school and careers or whatever, are like really struggling because they're so accustomed to the support that we offered before. And then it's not there, and they've spent so much time alone. And I think being alone is hard on all of us.
Yeah. And I think recovery, conversely, is about human connection, right?
It is.
Yeah, that's really challenging. We've had a couple comments while we've been talking. The centre is awesome, Wayne says. Class of 93, scholarship 90 to 93. Great job, Vince.
I remember Wayne young.
Another person from Cape Cod. That's awesome. So do you have people coming from all over the US?
We do. And we've had a number of international students too. I've had at least 5 or 6 students come here from India.
Wow.
It's been great. And
that's
so
amazing.
The international piece is what I've been really passionate about. We started a study abroad program for students in recovery about 6 years ago. Unfortunately, we didn't have one this last summer, but we've had a great experience taking our students abroad and giving them a safe environment to be students in recovery and have that international experience.
Where can students go?
We take our students to Prague in the Czech
Yeah.
Republic.
Yeah.
But we also do an international practicum placement for students that are wanting to work in the recovery field in England.
Oh.
First, CRC was established in Middlesbrough,
Yeah.
England.
Yeah.
And so we go there, and our students stay for the entire months of July and August and do 2 months working in the treatment center and with the CRC in Teesside University.
Oh, with Dart.
With Dart, yeah.
With Dart, wow. That's amazing. That's my favorite part of the country. It's such a beautiful
I love it up there. I love the opportunity to get to go there every year.
You get to go.
I go every year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So how does that impact students' experience? Would you say that it enhances their overall experience? How does it impact their recovery?
I mean, I think it really invigorates them that there's so much outside of our country and our state, for them to experience and get to meet other students in other countries that are in recovery is really, it just brings them up. I think it's empowering. It makes them feel more confident in their ability to do new things too, because it's such a big stretch. They're literally living in an apartment in the center of Prague, and they have to navigate the city through public transportation. They don't have a car they can just jump into and drive somewhere, and plus just the history in itself is amazing. And for our students in the past that have done a study abroad, it's been so difficult because what they do is they have these host families who don't understand that why a student is choosing not to drink. And so it makes it a very awkward relationship, and families tend to push it a lot because it makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And they have a student staying with them who doesn't want to have wine with dinner, It's a very cultural thing. And so we took that piece away. So our students don't live with host families. They live with each other. They have their own apartment. It's just to provide them a safe environment to live in internationally and go to school with tons of other students. I mean, we have students that have taken classes with us from Russia, from, the Philippines, from all over the place that come to Prague to go to school.
That's incredible. And I'd imagine because I know that having spoken to Dot, that the collegiate recovery field in England is quite small right now. How has your placements impacted recovery in the UK, what do you think, in terms of collegiate recovery?
Well, I think they bring an experience because we're able to basically be a part of our recovery community and experience all the perks of being a part of a large, very well-funded collegiate recovery, and share that with people when they go internationally. I'm not necessarily to say, oh, we get to do all this and it's so wonderful, but they get to share the personal piece.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many students, when there's a small community, have a hard time understanding that there's a ton of students on campus that are in recovery. You just got to find them.
Yeah.
And to know that they're not alone is the biggest thing. And what I noticed is that when my students go out there and work with Dot at her treatment center and work at Teesside, because my students actually live at Teesside in the dorms while they're over there for the summer.
Yeah.
And, they just feel like they're a part of, and they're so willing to help. And the students that are there going to school at Teesside University are so excited that our students are over there. We make great connections.
Yeah. I'd imagine that's quite resilience building for American students, because as a Brit, the culture in England is very alcohol driven.
It is, especially Northeast England.
Yeah. Yes. So how do you prime them for that, or?
Yeah, well, we take them to the Czech Republic, which has the highest beer consumption in all of Europe.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is that all of the 12-step meetings in the Czech Republic and in Prague and Brno are all
English
in
speaking.
English. They're
Yeah.
all English speaking. And
Yeah.
so once our students, so part of their requirement of being there is they have to go to some 12-step meetings because we want them to have that experience. And so they have to do at least one meeting a week, but they end up like getting plugged in and asking to be speakers at meetings and just really are well received.
Yeah.
You know, the Czech Republic has been really, really good for us. But at the same time, you know, I mean, drinking is part of the culture anywhere you go,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it
Go
is.
to a football game in Texas. I mean,
That's true. That's true. But I feel like, certainly from my experience, you know, there is in England, there is more of an emphasis on understanding, like you mentioned, why someone doesn't drink. Like they really push that, you know.
they do.
Yeah, yeah, they do. Because it's just, I mean, it's just such a big part of the culture. Yeah, we've had another question. Do students come out of treatment centres and join your college? We've already, the next part of the question is, and what happens if relapse or overdose happens? Are they mandated to be sent back to rehab? They're just curious about the extent of that.
Well, I mean, we have the recovery housing component in place to kind of fill the gap between receiving our financial support, because like I said earlier, our financial support can help get someone admitted that normally wouldn't be admitted. It just depends on how bad their transcripts look from their active use. So we'll bring them in to recovery housing and support them. And, you know, and we actually do, we drug test in our housing because it is kind of like a 3/4 way house situation. You know, we have peer leaders that are students that are in the CRC that live there, but they're also paid employees as student assistants. And so we have a male peer leader and a female peer leader that kind of oversee the housing component, because we'll have anywhere from 29 to 32 students that are new in recovery, living on campus in recovery housing. And so we'll drug test them, and we've had relapses and we will deal with it. It just depends on, like I said before, to the extent of what the relapse was, and of course the student's intention. You know, I've been doing this for so many years. I've had a student come in and say, yeah, I drank last weekend, and you know what, I really don't think I'm an alcoholic. And you know, we part ways and they leave the center, and you know, I tell them if they struggle, we're here for them. You know where we are, come through these doors, and every single person here will help you. But you know, it depends on what the student wants and how severe the relapse is for us to decide on what we need to do next.
I love that you have just such an open door policy, and it's not punitive if a student, we've had some feedback. This is amazing, absolutely incredible how much support and resources you have. I'm about to join your school.
I love that.
Yeah. I think it's incredible. We mentioned before we started about how competitive the program is. Do you want to talk a little bit about that for any students interested in applying?
Well, I mean, I think our application is very different than what you would see for any kind of program, like academic program application, because our program is all about the student's recovery.
Yeah.
And so if the student that's applying to our program is able to convey to us what recovery means to them, what recovery has done for them in their life, what they do to give back as far as service, if they can articulate that in an essay, because there's probably 4 small essays, and then we want to hear your story. We want a really detailed biographical statement. Tell us who you are, what you've been through, and where you're going today. And those students that really put the time and effort in really conveying who they are in their application are the ones that get in.
Do you have any statistics of, like, is it 1 in 3, or is it?
Like I said, it's really about what money we have available. So, you know, we really want to award, like, I'll spend all of this money. So it doesn't matter. Like, I'll piece together a scholarship in $50 increments if I have to in order to get a student in.
Yeah.
Because I want to accept as many as we can.
Yeah.
But you know, the money is really what we use as a kind of a mark of where we have to stop.
Yeah.
You know.
We've had another question. Do you accept students who are over 10 years clean and sober?
Oh, yes. Oh my God, we love them because, they bring a whole different dynamic to the community. And
Yeah,
when you have someone who's well established in their recovery and that joins the CRC, they become almost someone that the other students can look up to.
yeah,
And all this is just to provide a very diverse group of people. So gosh, I can't even tell you how excited I get when I have a student that's like in their 40s and 50s that apply, because I think they add so much to the community when we bring them in. And then when we have, unrepresented people, we have a program here, a student organization called Power. And
hmm,
what it is a program to reach out to unrepresented individuals that you will see in CRCs, because for years, our CRC, just from what I've seen, is very white and very male.
yeah,
And so we want to diversify what we do and the people that we're able to provide support to. And so Power goes out and reaches out to people who would normally not apply or think to apply to our CRC. So we could bring in diversity, people of color, people, LGBTQ students, non-traditional women, people that have been incarcerated. We're trying to diversify what we do and who we support here.
And how have you diversified the resources for those groups of people?
Well, it just depends, because some people require some additional resources
Mm.
on the front end. Well, we've got Anna Trevino, and Anna Trevino has a great relationship with the drug court here in Lubbock. She's
Mhm.
also got a great relationship with parole and people over there in that department. And so she's been able to help people get their probation and parole moved to Lubbock because of coming here to this program. She's been instrumental in having people walk from completing drug court into coming to Texas Tech University. And so we try to see what they need on the front end. And
Mhm.
then we hope, it doesn't always happen, but we hope the community is what maintains them once we get them here. Uh,
Yeah.
but that's why we need to make it more diverse, because to be really honest, as a gay man, it
Mhm.
really sucks to come into a community of 120 people and there's like 2
Yeah.
people that identify as queer. And
Yeah.
so we want to diversify that so that, that there's a larger group of people that can rally around each other.
Yeah, because we know that it can impact how safe people feel in meetings, how open people want to be, and ultimately their recovery, sustaining their recovery. Um, so we've had another question. How does applying work and when for someone who is 11 years clean, for instance?
Okay. We have 2 application cycles. Our spring cycle is the deadline for spring applicants is going to be October 31st.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is online on our Texas Tech Collegiate Recovery Community website. It's a live application online. So what I always recommend for students to do is to go in and pull the essay topics
Yeah.
and then cut and paste it to a Word document and close the internet. Once you've written your essays and you feel good about them, then go back to the online application, cut and paste, and then fill out your demographics.
Okay, so let's say you touch on this briefly. So a student applies, they tell you why their recovery is important to them. They cover that aspect of the essay questions. What if they don't meet the GPA requirements, or there is a history that is not conducive to a traditional application? Like what kind of parameters are there?
Well, it really doesn't matter what their previous GPA looks like coming in, because if they don't have a student conduct issue,
Yeah,
and it doesn't have to be just any student, a severe student conduct issue.
yeah.
I only had 2 students in 25 years not be admitted.
Wow.
And so I admit 40 students a semester,
That's
30
amazing.
to 40 students a semester.
And if they don't have someone's just said that's amazing. It is amazing. If they don't have the GPA, that doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. So I tell them, like I'll ask those kind of questions when I visit with a student. What does your GPA look like? How many schools have you been to? Because I was like 5, 6 different schools, and which is fine. But, you know, I just need to know that ahead of time so that I can give them correct information on what to expect. Because what I found out is that if you can tell a student in recovery exactly what to expect and there's not a lot of stress, they do better. They do much better and are able to handle the application process a lot better. So if someone says, I just got a really bad GPA, I really messed up, like I went to treatment and didn't even drop classes, you know, whatever the case may be. I'll tell them you're going to get a denial from Texas Tech. They're going to say, we're sorry, you're not accepted to go to community college. But you have to hold tight and wait for me to make our awards for scholarship. And if you are given a scholarship from the center, admissions will send you another email that says, congratulations, you've been admitted. So they'll get both emails. They'll say, sorry, you've been denied, and then later get an email saying, congratulations, you've been admitted.
That's wonderful.
So we just want them to know what to expect, because the last thing is for them to go through this whole process and not know what to expect, and know that we can help them, but know that there's a timing issue in admissions. So if they submit an application and I haven't been able to review scholarships, then, you know, there's a gap there and they might get a denial letter.
Yeah, and imagine those institutional barriers are, you know, really can place an impact on someone's self-esteem, which is already pretty low for people in recovery, right? In early recovery.
Yeah, and so for us, like, we have such a great relationship with our Office of Admissions that there's a specific person over there who deals with special situations for admissions. And so she handles all of the CRC students. So basically, I'll send her a list of students that are applying to my program that I have a full application on. They may have not have been reviewed yet, but they've applied to our program. And I'll send that to admission and say, keep an eye out for these applicants. And she'll pull them. She'll just pull them and say, these are mine, these are mine. And she'll be the one to handle the review, because she doesn't review them, but she sends them to review. But the people that are reviewing it know it's a special case.
Yeah.
So it might not look like your traditional freshman application or transfer student application. So we have that already worked out with the Office of Admissions so that they can have that understanding that our students, they're not going to look that great when you submit previous transcripts from other universities, because that's basically going to lay out what their active use and addiction look like. What you see is after we get them here at Texas Tech and they have a 3.4 and they're graduating, you know, with honors.
So speaking of graduation, tell us some of the success stories. What have been some stories that have really kind of touched your heart, where you've seen like somebody completely transform, or, you know, anything that...
You're just going to try to make me cry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Don't cry.
No, I mean,
well, do whatever you like, but
it's one of those things for me, is that it's the reason why I'm still here.
Yeah.
Because I work with them so soon before they actually get here, that I get really close to my students. And so, you know, like I have one student who did a semester of community college. And while she was doing that, she had a year sober when she started community college back home. And she didn't go away to college because her mom was sick. And then her mom passed away. And then literally 2 months later, she came to Texas Tech and was just like, this is awful. I can't do this. I'm so depressed. It's so happy. I mean, I'm not happy here. It's been really hard. And she just came in my office and would cry every week. And I would support her and, you know, tell her that she's doing the best that she can do. And, you know, and that first year was just a struggle, but she stuck it out and really got acclimated to being in Lubbock and being at Texas Tech. And then she came to me and said, I just want to be a nurse. I want to be one of those nurses without borders, and I want to travel and do whatever I want to do, but I want to be a nurse. And I was like, why don't you be a doctor? Just why you, because.
Oh.
But so she was one of those that was like, well, I've never thought that I could do that. And she did it. You know, she just finished her residency.
Wow. So do you still hear from students who have graduated?
Yeah, I do a lot.
That must be such a great sense of satisfaction.
I love it.
Yeah.
I do.
Do you have any more stories?
Can you do that, man? You make me cry the whole time.
so wonderful.
It's just a great opportunity because you see so many people realize they have the strength and the ability, and
Yeah.
they doubted themselves for so long. So that's the rewarding part.
Yeah.
So every year we do a scholarship dinner. And then unfortunately this year, of course, we're not going to get to do one because of COVID. But every December, we bring in all of our donors and we invite people from the university. So like the provost, the president comes, admissions comes, housing comes, and we have our we have all of our graduates speak. And the people that are graduating within this academic year will all take an opportunity to speak and tell their story of what it was like, and then what their experience at Texas Tech is like, and then of course tell us what they're doing after graduation. And so it's usually a very long evening because we have a lot of graduates, but it's one of our best evenings when the students get an opportunity to thank the donors and thank the university for the experience that they had.
And what happens in the wider community? Are people in Texas aware of what you're doing?
Somewhat. I mean, you know, for a very long time, we were one of the top 3 talking points out of the chancellor's office because we were so unique to what we offered that no other university did what we did to the extent that we did. So, you know, there's a lot of support, you know, and all of us work in this field, and we all know that every single person has been touched in one way, shape, or form by substance use disorder, addiction, and the disease has impacted us in some way or another. So that goes for everybody. And when people who have been impacted in their own family or their own children or whatever the case may be, and they hear about what we do, it gives them a lot of hope.
Yeah.
It really does.
It sounds incredible, the amount of support that you provide and the hope. And I'm curious what kind of support you provide for families of students in the CRC. You know, is there any additional support for them? You know, do they get, I'd imagine, you know, as a family member of someone in recovery, it can be challenging and you worry about people. What can they expect?
Yeah, we do a family weekend every fall term.
Yeah.
We invite the parents, you know, to come out to the center, and we do a morning family group session where the students, if they're not in class, they can come and participate with their family, but it's mainly for the family. And Dr. Tom will talk about the dynamics of family and what that looks like, and talks about what the parents should expect from their students here, kind of telling and helping them understand boundaries, and helping them kind of trust in the process a little bit. Because when we get a lot of parents that are overactive in the students' recovery, they've got to let go a little bit, and we kind of give them an opportunity to be around their peers, of other parents and other family members, and talk about how hard that is, but it's okay to do. You know, to kind of let go, and you know, the students are going to set some boundaries because they want their, you know, they want their autonomy, they want their individuality, they want to be able to do things on their own. And so we do that every year for our families and give them an opportunity to hear that and then to discuss it with their peers, of their parents. And then another piece of that weekend that we do is we do a question and answer session with the staff. And that's the one that I usually lead because it allows me to lay some boundaries with the parents. Being an academic unit and being student support, not being direct student support services, we fall under FERPA guidelines, not HIPAA. And so with that, I explain to them what that means and what information we're allowed to share with them and what stuff we just won't share with them because it's none of their business. You know?
What kind of family transformations have you seen?
Oh, we've seen huge ones. Like let me give you this example. I went up to the University of Oklahoma 2 years ago because one of my students, his fiance graduated and got a job. And so he transferred to the University of Oklahoma. And so he was still going to school, and he got really active in trying to start up a CRC at the University of Oklahoma. And I went up there to support him and to be a part of one of his big events, to get the word out to the campus-wide community. And one of my former students' parents came to that event because she sent him to Texas Tech because there was nothing at OU.
Yeah.
And so she was still being like, you know, even though her son is living in Dallas and a personal financial planner and has 3 kids and like is well removed from Texas Tech, she's still active in the collegiate recovery community push because she knows how much it benefited her son.
Wow, that's incredible. What I think probably as a last question is to wrap up. What
Okay.
I'm curious what you do in the wider Texas Tech community. Do you do any recovery ally training? Do you educate staff? Because you know stigma is real. Yeah. What do you do there?
Well, we do a lot. I'll do a lot just by higher education has a lot of turnover, especially in like student housing and some of those other where most of the employees are here to work on either a master's degree or a PhD, because once they're done with that, they're going to go to another university and get a bigger job, which is typical. That's what we do here. And that's the reason why we employ a lot of master's and PhD students. So I do a lot of re-educating whenever we get new employees with the service, with the auxiliary support that we have for our students, because I want to maintain those relationships and I want them to understand what we do. And I give them tours of the building and I introduce them to students and, you know, whatever the case may be. Like sometimes I'll even set up a student panel and have the students tell their story to these people that are just now new employees of the university, but are going to be working directly with me to provide student services. And so, you know, I do a lot of education that way because I want to maintain those relationships. My other staff, like Anna Trevino, who works really closely with Power, she goes to the prisons and she goes to treatment centers and she goes to halfway houses and all sorts of things and does presentations about what we offer and what support we offer and kind of educate people on what our CRC does and recovery and addiction in general. But one of the coolest things is that our students are given the opportunity every week to sit on a student panel, and they just sign up, and those students will go and sit in a class because Texas Tech requires students that struggled academically. If on their second semester after they struggled, they're required to take this class, and they have a panel on addiction and students in recovery in that class for everyone to understand. You know, hey, there's students here that have struggled. It might not be your issue, but there are students here that have long-term recovery, and this is the support that we offer, and it's really good for those general students to be able to sit in front of a panel of students that look just like them, that act just like them. You know, it's huge in stigma reduction.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
And do you hear any feedback from academics where they've changed their opinion or?
Usually once I can get their buy-in, we don't really see a lot of opinion changes, but when the position does change, someone comes in with some preconceived notions and their own bias and all sorts of stuff. And we just do the best we can to educate them.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I have really enjoyed this conversation.
I have too. Thank you.
Yeah, we have had one more question, but I wonder if we can quickly answer it. Do you offer human services and psychology degrees?
Yes. We have a variety of human services degrees. Ours is very unique because it is called Community, Family, and Addiction Sciences. And our major is really geared for people who are going to be working within a health and human services agency. So we teach them grant writing, management, implementation, and program development. So those are all the upper division coursework for that major, and it's really, really unique to a health and human services perspective.
Okay, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So just as a reminder to everybody that this will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube and on the ARHE website. You were glorious. So you will be able to find that in the next few days, and we hope that you found it helpful. Please let us know if you have any feedback. Please note that we have another webinar next week, next Thursday, the 22nd of October at 2 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be doing a spotlight on the University of Alabama. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you next time.